you got to where you are today in business, and not just you, your family, how have you guys been able to position yourself where you're across 8 industries and you're in things of significant scale? What has been the driver for that for you?
Of course, it's definitely the fact that Guam is, a small island, small community. So it's easy to kind of hear what potentials are out there, compared to, somewhere, one of the larger countries out there. So I would say that's like the main factor. And, after a while, you notice that a lot of the industries do bleed together. Obviously, for us, like the food wholesale with, the hotel, or, the food wholesale with the restaurant makes a lot, has a lot of similarities in there. And again, with us, it was the petroleum side, which we're supplying lubricants to. GPA end up getting us into solar. And I think, it's, are you born and raised in Guam?
I was.
Yeah. So, I was born and raised in Guam too, right? And I think after a while, not after a while, you kind of just were raised to understand that, be good because everyone's going to know what's going on, right? It's hard to keep secrets on Guam. And I think that's why a lot of times when the foreign companies come in, like sometimes when some of the Korean companies or some of the American companies come in and they try and do something that's, not, goodwill, I would say, it gets caught immediately, right? And that's just Guam. I think we're just raised to know that that's the way it is on Guam. And I think when you have that, then you get a certain reputation of knowing that you're not someone that's going to screw you over, that someone that's not going to just do something just for a quick buck or something. After that, then then there's a certain amount of trust that you get, right? And I think there's most people that who do well on Guam have that mentality that it's not about getting the quick buck. It's more just to keep integrity, and I think then people will help work with you on different things. Maybe that's how how actually the drone went too as well. Dong, he was actually going to work with somebody else. And then we talked to him a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, this sounds interesting." So he asked me if I would be interested, and then that's how we ended up working together, right? Because we were doing the Korean Chamber at the time, and then we worked together, and we thought we both liked each other in terms of the mentality of working, and I think that kind of ended up leading to, all right, let's try and do this drone thing together, and now we're doing well. We're getting a lot of good projects. We're actually getting a lot of projects outside the island too. And we're trying to do a bigger, we're calling it the mega project, but trying to scan that whole end of Guam.
Well, I'm going to be a partner with you in that mega project.
Of course, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But for me, I think that's what's missing in a lot of ways, the networking, right? And I'd love to see, you were behind it with Korean Chamber, and just in terms of the entrepreneurial networking. I think that's coming to fruition more. I think the professionals are thirsty for it. Every time GYP does something, people show up. Chamber, they come up, and so it's important for young professionals to make sure you engage in that way, because the solution to your business, the relationship, is effectively sitting across from you at a table, and you just need to say hello. Yeah. In a lot of ways, right? Just like Andy did with the solar providers, and that turned into a significant opportunity, not just for you, but your whole family.
Yes, yeah.
So tell me about kind of the familial legacy here, right? You were born and raised here, right? But so how did your family come to be on Guam?
I think originally my dad came over because he was part of the military service. He was here with I think with Hyundai. Mm-hmm. That's why there's even a lot of remnants of Hyundai being here a long time ago. He was here with that, and he saw opportunity here. After he finished his military service, he came back. It's typical story of coming with nothing but the shirt on the back of his back, and then he built it up very slowly. But he was very very hardworking. I mean, still to this day, very hardworking. He's in terms of hardworking, I've never seen anyone work that hard. And he's still in the office every day. He was just in the office right now. That's kind of why I was a little late today, because he stopped by the office and kind of talked a little bit. But yeah, I think for him, he started with that, and he started doing the wholesale a little bit early on. This is back in the 70s, right? This is before a lot of the Koreans moved in. He was one of the first that moved in. And he'd tell me he'd get a van, fill it up with with canned goods and candies and go around the island. He'd do that 6 times, 7 times a day. People down south loved him because no one would come by for days, but he'd be there multiple times a day. Right. So I think that's, he, and I think that's also the case too, is that I think I heard Sang kind of mentioning this earlier, but the generation of my parents, and that older generation, Korea at one point was the poorest country in the world, right? I think even that time, like poorer than Ethiopia, like poorer than a bunch of the countries that are known to be poor, right? And they built themselves from that to what now the 10th biggest economy. They call it the miracle on the Han, right? I think because they had that mentality of work hard to survive kind of mentality, and then on top of that, they left in the 70s where it was still slowly starting to come up. That they still have that mentality of working hard and making their own way. Where I'm not putting anything down of current Korean I guess mentality, but I do see that now it's a little more lax and a little less about having to work every day kind of idea. Where I think that's what our parents' generation has, and that's a lot of not only my dad but my dad's friends. I see the same situation.
Tough times build grit and resilience, and that makes you very tough to compete with.
Yes, I do agree.
Nobody quits. So for you, having parents like that, so where do you gain your own confidence and say, I am my own person? And where was kind of like the turning point for you where you're just like, you're actualized?
Still to this day, I discuss with my dad, pretty much anything major that we do. I don't know if I do things on my own, because I do. I think I rely on him heavily on mentorship, and even in Korea when I was doing a startup, I had great board of advisors that helped a lot. But I think hands down, he was my dad. Still to this day is the best mentor I've ever had. Wow. Still a lot of times in the beginning when I first came here, it was things that I knew were very difficult, but he'd break it down and make it a lot easier. Or other way around, where things I thought was very easy, and he'd show how potentially difficult that could get. And I think, to see in those different perspectives, because he has obviously a wealth of experience, 50, 60 years now, 50 years plus now of experience in business. So, there's just certain things that experience just can't beat, right? Mm-hmm. And I think still to this day, I still learn everything from him. I still learn a lot from him on a daily basis.
Well, tell me about the hotels, though. Tell the hotel specifically. What's that business like right now?
The hotel is, right now, of course, is not the best. The hospitality is not the best industry right now. It's, with the tourism being down so bad. And, for us, when we decided to do renovation was right before COVID. We decided to kind of, fix things up because we had a bunch of businesses and they're all doing, decent. But then the hotel was always kind of struggling because it was old and it needed renovation. We decided, okay, let's renovate. COVID hit, and we're like, should we still do it? And we're like, I think people want to travel after COVID, so let's just do it now. And then by the time COVID's kind of done, they'll come back in droves, but that never happened. So we're always kind of in that situation where we know we have a good product, we know we have a good hotel. We're hearing good reviews and everything. It's just the tourists aren't coming, and understandably the exchange rates are bad. There's not as much to do in Guam. And I think because COVID reset tourism in general, they found new places to go to. So I think hopefully with the new leadership at GVB will get better. Hopefully, with the administration trying to help with tourism will get better. But as of right now, it's not the best industry to be in, I would say.
Yeah, it's tough.